I've been fascinated for a long time about this idea of change. Why do things change? How do people respond to change? How do people handle organizational change, especially when that change feels compulsive? So what do I mean by that? So I'll give you a couple examples. If you are a marketer, you market your product to your customer, how does a customer feel, or how can we expect them to respond when you change the game? So for example, if McDonald's said, you know what, we're going to change. We're not going to sell hamburgers anymore. We're going to sell tacos. How would the customer respond to that? Or if you are in the nonprofit sector, how do your volunteers, how do your stakeholders, how do those who have buy-in, how do they respond to the change when you decide to say, you know what, not only are we changing our logo, but we're also changing maybe something more important like our mission statement or our values, or simply something like a family. If you are a father or a mom, or you know that you're leading children, and those children sometimes respond a little differently to change than maybe you would have expected. So something really simple that I remember as a kid was, what happens when mom changes the lasagna recipe and all of a sudden starts putting mushrooms in there? Like, I didn't have a say in this. This is wrong. I'm outraged at the mushrooms. Get the mushrooms out of there. So with that said, here's the kind of the enduring analogy or the metaphor that I want to show you. So for example, let's look at the evolution of the best rock album in history, the Beatles' Abbey Road. Now, I'm a Beatles fan, so I'm a little biased, but I actually own a vinyl copy of Abbey Road. Actually, 7.6 million people in America own a vinyl copy of the Beatles' Abbey Road. And it's not hard to understand why. This is the Beatles' last studio album that was put out, and so it carries a bit of charm with it, knowing that. It has the hits Come Together, Something, and Here Comes the Sun. And thanks in part to that Chris Farley skit in SNL, his interview with Paul McCartney, it's remembered for containing the phenomenal line, "And in the end, the love you take is equal to the love you make." There's almost this palpable air of nostalgia and homage to owning this album. So when it came out in cassette, many people thought, man, I gotta buy this again because I have to listen to this in my car or my new stereo system. And then later, the same thing happened when the CD came out. You see how this is evolving, and then now, like millions of other albums, Abbey Road is available for digital streaming on Spotify, where over 14 million subscribers listen to the Beatles every month. So despite the record's constant availability in a variety of formats, people think about the change differently. So some people, would say this: why did they kill vinyl? I miss the sound of the record. There's something about that I just miss. Or, I could play the cassette in my car, and now my car doesn't have, an aux audio in, or even a CD player. Some people would say, man, well, CDs just sounded clearer than something right now. And some people would push back and say, well, Spotify or online streaming is just more convenient. And so this is this change theory that happens. So as it turns out, many people handle change, the way they handle change is based really on two factors. First off, time. How quickly was the change made? And the second factor is emotion. How much emotion is vested in the status quo? Or asked another way, how painful is the change that we're talking about here? So in the case of Abbey Road, significant time passed between the changes. So despite the emotional attachment that most people have with Abbey Road, the change was largely accepted. You don't see angry people storming the gates of the record company demanding that vinyl be reinstated. Well, let's contrast that with politics. People stage protests and demand to be heard all the time because there's this high emotional attachment to certain political offices, and there's also a very fast rate of change. So people react from a gut level. So here's the question: what if you could chart it? Which is what every analyst eventually asks at some point. Time on one axis and emotion on another. It turns out there are three predictable responses to organizational change. Regardless of the size, age, or influence of an organization, people will respond in one of three ways. And all of these changes come in what we'll call change waves. So here's the first one. The first wave that we see organizationally is what we'll call the mad wave. The mad wave. And three things you need to know about the mad wave. It's this very red hot thing at the top. It's the first to show itself. So when you make a change in time, that'd be that far left side of the time continuum there, the first thing that happens is somebody's going to get mad. They're going to go, man, what happened? It's the first to show itself. It also is the loudest in volume out of these change waves. You're going to hear it, right? These are the people that fire off angry emails and call customer service and yell. And it also leaves quickly, though. And this is kind of the third thing. It is fairly quick to pass. So the mad wave has a voice, and it sounds like this. This is not okay. I'm protesting, you know? This is like when you go to your favorite coffee shop and let's just say, man, they moved the tables around and my table isn't where it was. Or, man, why'd they put the comfy chairs by the window? It's drafty there. This is not okay. I am protesting. This is this mad wave that happens. But like we said, the optimistic thing is it leaves or it passes fairly quickly. That's the first wave, the mad wave. Well, here's the second wave that we'll take a look at. The second wave is what we call the sad wave, and it looks kind of like that. 3 things you need to know about the sad wave. It has a slower buildup. It takes a long time for somebody who is, typically the sad wave type of person to say, I don't know about this. I'm not mad. I'm just trying to figure this thing out. It has a medium volume, in the sense that these people normally don't storm the gates. They're not the loud protesters, but they do want to be heard. The trick with the sad wave, though, is it is the hardest to get through, okay? Because it sounds like this. This is really tough to accept. I'm really struggling with this. It's like when somebody's going to give you a different car, let's say, and you're used to driving an automatic, but you end up buying a stick shift, and you go, man, this is really tough to accept this kind of change. I am really struggling to figure this thing out. Or like you come home, and let's say while you were away, your spouse painted the bedroom, and you go, oh my gosh, I don't know how I feel about this. You're not going to fly off the handle and get angry or get mad, but you're going to be like, I don't know how I feel about this. And so one thing we want to point out, I think at this point you can see, is that time continuum, that really is flexible. Okay, we could be talking a matter of minutes, we could be talking a matter of hours, days, or even years. So when people are in the sad wave, they say, man, I'm really struggling with this. This is really tough to accept. But there's a third wave, okay? And this third wave, I think, is the most complicated. I think it's the most prevalent, and it's called the tired wave. The tired wave. 3 things you need to know about the tired wave. 1 is it actually shows itself in a series of waves. It's not one. This is like somebody who would say, man, I'm really having a tough time. No, I'm okay. And then they kind of rear up and go, man, this has really been tough, and no, I guess I'm okay. I can deal with it. And so that's why we call it the tired wave, is it actually is exhausting. It has the quietest volume. Okay, these are the people that you almost have to pull it out. Sometimes they're barely heard at all. They may be just on the fringe of your organization. They tend to be the more loyalist of your organization, but they tend to barely be heard at all. And then the last thing is it never truly passes. The tired wave never really goes away. It's always going to be there. Like if you drop a pebble in a pond, the visible waves may dissipate after a little while and you won't see them, but there's always going to be something there. And the tired wave sounds like this. Things just haven't been the same since ... Things just haven't been the same since. And it's this like nostalgic, there's an edge of sadness in here, there's a tiredness, it's old, it's like this, I really miss the good old days. So that's the tired wave. These 3 waves are present whenever you make a change, regardless of how big or how small. All right, so here's where this starts to matter, okay? There are factors that you can do as a leader to consider how to navigate through change waves. And here's the first one, the time frame that you're dealing with. Consider the time frame that you're dealing with. So for example, we said, the time is flexible. So if your coffee shop moves the chairs in your favorite coffee shop, they put the comfy chairs by the window and they move the round table wherever, you're going to be okay with that. This is something that probably after 2 or 3 weeks, you're not really going to be thinking about. I can't imagine somebody really holding on to that kind of a thing for years, but maybe somebody does. So you're going to consider the time frame you're dealing with. By contrast, if I think about in marriage, let's say parents split up and there's a step parent that steps in. That's a time frame for those children that's probably going to be a longer time frame. That's not going to be processed in the span of weeks. And someone may be mad, sad, or tired for a number of years. The The second thing you're going to want to consider is the percentage you anticipate in each wave. Now, this is where this gets a little heady, and you're really going to have to sit back and think it through. The percentage you anticipate in each wave. So, for example, if you're a nonprofit who's changing your mission statement, or you're changing the way you message some things, how many people in your given audience are going to be mad, sad, or tired? Now, here's the funny thing is there's really no way of knowing this for sure. And if there was a formula, man, that'd be great, because then you could plan accordingly, but there's really not. So you take a look, and here's some contributing factors. How loyal is your audience to their current mission statement, if that's the thing you're changing, or if you're a marketing person, the branding and the wrapping that goes around your product. Is someone going to be mad that you're putting a pop top instead of a screw top on your bottle? How many of them are going to be mad? How many of them are going to be okay with it? How many people are going to feel like, man, I just missed the sound of that pop top? So as you start to talk about that, what you're really talking about is how well do you know your audience? And that can actually be a great question for a roundtable. Bring in all the key leaders. But here's really the one that you spend the most time thinking through. How to weather the equilibrium offset that each wave produces. Okay, so imagine with me if you dropped a cannonball into a small pond. That is going to really offset the equilibrium of things that are moored in that pond. Things are going to start to slosh around a little bit, But imagine if you just dropped a pebble in, a smaller change. Well, that's not going to set the equilibrium off too much. You're going to notice it, but things aren't going to go too crazy. Well, the truth is the mad wave is like the cannonball. It goes off and it gets this huge big thing, and you're going to have some people that are really hot and bothered. And so the key for you in this stage, or kind of walking through this point, is to say, okay, how can we bring some stability even though we're in the culture of change? So if you're a church who's changing a staff member, a great thing would be to do is say, hey, let's have some great community dinners together, or let's all have a good prayer night together, or let's do something together where we can serve. And not to take your mind off of what's happening, but to say, let's come back to our moorings. Let's center. Let's bring some stability to these things. So anyway, that's basic concepts behind change waves. I hope you found this to be helpful. Let me know if you have any questions or concerns. I look forward to talking with you.